Hey Chris, how are you doing, man?
Great.
All right,
Really excited, really exhausted.
It's what time is it for you now?
It's 12:25.
You're calling from a hotel
So
somewhere.
it's in the night. Yeah, this is a weird. I ended up in some hotel lobby here. So I just had an interview with. I had an interview with Gerrby Raphael. So he was in town, and I thought, I would shoot an interview with him. And then this call happened, and you gotta move fast,
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this at this ungodly hour. And I want to know more about your journey, basically. So you traveled from Georgia to San Francisco to take action there in front of OpenAI, right? Can you tell me a little bit more about what happened before that? Like, how were you inspired to take that action? What drove you to do this?
Yeah. So I read about AI safety maybe 10 years ago. I read Superintelligence. It was a bit too abstract for me. It took me a long time to act, but I now realize that we have very little time. And, there's no one stepping up and taking action. And apparently I can do this. Apparently it's not that hard to just go out and table. You just need some support. And, yeah. I mean, why did I go here? I think that, people, if they knew about what is actually going on, they would be really fucking pissed. They would be really mad. People do realize that AI is a big threat to them, to like humanity, when we see that in the polls. But I don't think that people understand how little time we might have left. So, it takes time to mobilize. It takes time to grow a mass movement. It takes time. So we need to start now. And, so that's the plan. That's why I've come here. I'm trying to, be a bit of a catalyzer coming here. So,
I think you're inspiring a lot of people here. Like, just actually taking the time to go to a different country, show up there, talk with people, record yourself doing it. That's an important step. So I'm wondering, like, did you consider yourself an activist earlier on?
Like 1 year ago, when I saw Just Stop Oil 1 year ago, approximately 18 months, a year ago, I had such a bad taste in my mouth. Really looked down on this sort of tactic that they use. Like, what the fuck? They're messing with people. I didn't understand. I told my friends when they brought up activism as a tactic, I told them literally, if the world depends on me doing activism, the world will burn. I said this many times, and I didn't say it ironically. And then I read up on why are people doing activism? Why are they so annoying? And it fucking turns out that it really works. It really changes policies. So I guess that's like a big reason why I'm here, and putting myself out there and trying to mobilize people and trying to inspire people and inform people. If people understood that there's the most credible people in this sphere in AI think that there's 1 in 6 chance that we will go extinct. If they realize that actually this is what is happening right now. They are literally trying to build the thing that could make us go extinct, and that is unacceptable. I think that is unacceptable to most people. So it's a big part of doing this is just raising awareness. I don't have to persuade people very much, even though, that's a part of the job. You could just share the polls, you can just share the data and, show that actually the most credible people in the world think that there's an existential risk here. And like this thing that could cause an existential risk is happening right now.
You're just trying anyway. Is that a core value of you?
Yeah, I do think I do enjoy like doing this, even though it's very hard and I'm outside of my comfort like all the time. But yes, I do think that we should definitely try, even though it might not work, even though the odds are, we don't know what the odds actually are, but I think that the odds are pretty they could be against us here, but I really want to try anyway.
So many people are saying that pausing AI development is just an impossible dream, basically, right? It's not going to happen. So what would you say to these people? What would you say against the argument?
Yeah. So maybe it is. Maybe it's actually impossible at this point in time. We don't know. But I do think it's, we could also lay down and die. So I don't think that it's acceptable to introduce something that is way more intelligent than us into the world. So that's that part. It's not acceptable to, create superintelligence that is misaligned, or even, create superintelligence that is aligned. We have actually no idea how to leverage that technology to our benefits. We want to keep it under democratic control. I do really think that makes sense. I don't want to end up in a 1984 scenario where we have super surveillance and, everyone loses their job and, who controls this superintelligence? So, back to the question on why is it feasible to pause the technology? And we've done this in the past. For example, Sweden was 6 months away from having a nuclear program. They were 6 months away from having nukes. Sweden, and there's many other countries that also were on the trajectory of creating nukes. So, diplomats worked and many other people worked really hard at trying to mitigate or minimize the spread of nukes. And so that worked out. And then we have, Biological Weapons Convention. We have the CFC, what's the name of that again? Where
the Montreal Protocol?
Could you remember? The Montreal Protocol. Yeah, the most successful global treaty ever, I think. So we have pause technologies. We have a track record of doing this. We haven't created a 500 megaton nuclear bomb yet, even though we could. So even though we have nukes, we haven't. Maybe that's analogous to superintelligence. Maybe we would require a lot of compute to create superintelligence. And it's just very hard. And, we could definitely set up policies to prevent that from happening. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's the case. It's, you don't need so much compute, so much data. Maybe you just need really strong algorithms. But yeah, it's definitely worth trying anyway.
Oh,
we can compare it to, solving super alignment. And, I've looked into alignment a lot, and I have no idea what alignment is. And, if you ask around for people's opinions on what alignment is, so they also don't really know, So we're trying to, fly the plane and build the plane at the same time. It's pretty crazy. We could just, pause and ponder for a bit. I think that this is definitely the same thing we should do.
I fully agree. And I'm often confused as to why not more people are feeling like this is the obvious thing that we should aim for. There are so many things of AI that can go catastrophically wrong. Even if AI turns out to be controllable, you already mentioned it, we could end up in 1984 completely dystopian societies where governments gain way too much power over their citizens, or where, an AI company can overthrow a government because they have a super intelligence working for them. There's a lot of outcomes that don't even assume a loss of control, that are still very, very bad. And I feel like if you are worrying about AI risk, that there is not just one scenario to be scared of. There's a lot of different outcomes that all seem potentially quite reasonably likely to happen, that are very, very much, very much powerful arguments to push us away from building this technology as fast as possible. And that brings me to a question. I've noticed that there's quite a lot of people, especially in San Francisco, who do believe that AI should be built as fast as possible. And some of them are called effective accelerationists or EX. Have you encountered some of them during your debating and discussion sessions while tabling at OpenAI?
not to my memory, but I've encountered them elsewhere. So, for example, in Georgia. And I think that I haven't encountered the same people that we have encountered on Twitter. So they're not that extreme, saying things such as, it's okay if humanity goes extinct. I haven't encountered those. I would be pretty speechless if anyone actually said that to me in person. But I think the discrepancy, what I noticed in person is that most of them haven't read very much about alignments. So there seems to be a knowledge gap there. And I just think it's very hard to make an AI care about what you care about. This is ultimately what it's about. It's not understanding, it's caring, it's valuing. It's very different. So that is alignment, and I think they might have that knowledge gap.
That would explain some of the more odd takes. I'm also sometimes thinking, is it just a weird, way to cope with the uncontrollableness of the current situation, right? We have a lot of companies that are racing. We have governments that are racing on their own and having this competitive race dynamics. And if the default outcome of that would be catastrophic, it could be doom, right? Then it can feel just so much more comfortable to give up and say okay, maybe it's going to go really, really wrong, but let's just hit the pedal to the metal, go for it as fast as possible. And, maybe we'll end up in utopia. Maybe we'll end up dead. Maybe that's fine. Sometimes I'm just really wondering what makes people tick in this, right? What makes them go for this position of giving up on policy effectiveness this early on?
Yeah. I think maybe it's from despair, giving up. I do think that could be a contributor.
Do you sometimes feel that, that negative emotion that maybe that's what I feel sometimes, the comfort of not trying anymore, right? Giving up is very easy because it's very comfortable.
It's very tempting. Yeah. It's very tempting, but I could live with myself. I think that there's two different pains. So on one side of the spectrum, it's the pain of pursuing the maybe impossible, and that's a pain. And on the other side, it's the looking yourself in the mirror and or rather not being able to look yourself in the mirror because that you could do something, but you're not doing something. And I think that pain is much greater for me.
I was wondering what you would want to say to other people who are watching this video and who are, looking at your actions and feeling yeah, Chris, you go, man. Who are considering taking some other actions themselves. What tips do you have for them? How can they get started and making a change on their own? Because it can feel very, challenging, I can assume. What would you tell them?
You just have to try and try again, and then you'll fail. And then, it just depends on how many times you're prepared to try again, and you learn on the way. And you can find comfort in that. You can really find comfort in, really believing in your ability to, if you fail, you can get up again. So, just consume a lot of books, consume a lot of knowledge, speak to people, try to find truth, try to find, get the most accurate picture of what is actually going on. And, I think maybe the biggest hack is finding ways, finding kind of thought patterns or things to tell yourself that would enable you to kind of cope with the fear. So I do think that is a limiter. That is the ultimate thing that will limit you in what you're allowing yourself to do. I think the 10x and 100x methods that are available to us, we don't reach for them because, it's scary. It's literally because of fear. We don't even try. I very much believe that is the case. So, find ways that would motivate you to like take risks and like find excuses to actually try, even though it might seem really difficult. So that would be a big part. And then, just work a lot, like work as much as you can, and also read up on burnout. Like the more you work, the more you should know about burnouts. It should be kind of proportional. So I'm working all the time, and that is possible if you train yourself a bit, and you find strategies to mitigate burnout. So I think that's a pretty good combination. Just try and accept that you will fail, and then just get up again, gain more knowledge, cope with the fear.
So you talked about how fear could, limit people's actions or what they believe they can actually achieve. Can you talk a little bit more about how that impacted you and how you were able to basically circumvent that fear or embrace it or challenge it or do something about it?
Yeah. So one strategy that I can share on video or share to the wider public is you can contrast what you are planning to do with something that is much more scary. So, for example, if I have a speech for 30 people, then I can just visualize I'm having a speech for 100 people and, just simulate that in my mind 5 times over. And then I have, then it's very much all right when I'm standing just in front of 30 people. That's one strategy. What else could I share? I do think that is generalizable. I do think that would probably work for most people. Yeah, the other strategies, they're kind of personal, and yeah. I do think that maybe I should share it.
If you don't want to share it, we can also cut it out. Right?
No, I do think that this is good. So I have one of my mentors. I visualize one of my strongest, I would say my strongest mentor calling me a pussy, a coward. I visualize him saying that you are a coward for not doing this. You have this very, very high leverage strategy that you could deploy, but you are not. And you're a coward for not doing this. And, when I just visualize him, leaning forward and looking me into my eyes and saying this, and then I just feel like, well, I'm not a coward, so obviously this is not true. I'll go and do that, So that works really well for me. So you should find your kind of hacks that works for you to get over the threshold.
Oh, I really like that story. So you're basically making the most courageous version of yourself by imagining bad things, right? You're imagining standing for a bigger crowd, doing something that's more scary, or you're imagining, getting criticism for being a coward, and thereby like challenging yourself constantly. And I think like the courage is a very important value, a very important, thing to strive for if you want to be a good activist. But I also believe that there's a lot of people who will look at you and your courage and feel like, okay, that's just too much for me. So what would you advise them to do? Like, is there some sort of like lighter way to action where they can start with that doesn't take that much courage, but it still like could feel scary to them?
When you don't know what to do, you can always make progress by building resources. So then when you know what to do, you can deploy those resources. So, just reach out to your friends, inform your family, ask them to inform their friends and family, rinse and repeat, and then we have exponential growth. So that's something. And then, you also train yourself in charisma and persuasion. And I think that those are very, very useful traits. Those are extremely useful skills to have.
So talking to your friends and family about AI risk, right? That's a big step for a lot of people because they feel like a little bit intimidated about it. They don't want to be ridiculed by their friends and family. What would you say to them?
Yeah. So I do think that is a risk. And I haven't tried to persuade my childhood friends to take action. So I definitely see, I have sympathy for people not doing that, but yeah. Well, what would I say to them? I mean, yeah, if you're not comfortable doing with your friends, you can, you don't want to go too hard on anyone, trying to, really persuade anyone. You don't want to make people too uncomfortable. I don't think that's productive at the end of the day. You want to read, you really want to be able to read people's body language and, what they think when you present this to them, and then kind of adjust your messaging strategy. So, it's kind of a dance, it's just like having a normal conversation. I think, when looking at this interview with me now, I'm trying to be very confident here and, say things that I understand. And something you learn is that you really want to adjust your communications to who you're speaking with. So, it's not so much, I don't think it's that much of a risk if you, learn how to adjust your communications to the moment, to the one you're speaking with. I don't think it's, because if you read that the person is getting pretty uncomfortable, then you just speak about something else. And,
Yeah, and especially if you're talking about a subject that's like this dark, things can get uncomfortable pretty soon. Like I've noticed that in my friends and family, I've spoken with a lot of people who I know, about what I think about AI risk and how much concern I have about this topic. And I notice that many people are sympathetic towards like me being concerned about it. Like they're open to talking about, me feeling concerned. But what they often don't want to is explore the whys, right? Really explore the thought about why I'm very concerned. Because as soon as people like enter that area, if they're starting to think about how dangerous this thing really is, they start to feel the pain, right? They start to feel like the fear, and then they evade that. Like that's my experience when people are thinking about this. Like the brain just doesn't want to be exposed to too much concern. It's just like evading the subject in a way. And that's to me has felt very lonely at times. Like I feel like my best friends and the people who I like best in life, they don't really want to talk about this subject in the way that I would like to talk about the subject, right? Like how real it actually is to me. How have you experienced that?
Yeah, all the time. I do think that, sometimes I sit down and I zoom out and I think about what the hell I'm doing here. And, it's very hard to, when you really, have internalized, actually, we might lose literally everything, in a few years. That could be a worst case scenario. And, and then when you think about all the things that you love in the world, and, I'm trying to, I'm doing thankfulness, or like I usually think about the things I love to, get my spirit up. And, it's really painful to, think about losing literally everything. It would be very, very sad. So, I have full understanding for people that don't want to think about that. Like, I totally understand that. It's very hard. I think that I'm probably pretty much of an outlier when it comes to that. What would I tell them? Well, yeah, I mean, I would read the room, and, I wouldn't want to make people sad in vain. It's a hard balance, it's a hard balance act of who should you tell, how much pressure should you put. We need to mobilize people now, but at the same time, we don't want to make people too uncomfortable. It's actually, it's pretty hard actually when you think about it.
Maybe to zoom in a little bit, like, for the people who are watching this and they just feel like, okay, I want to do something. I want to take some form of action, but I don't want to fly to San Francisco, do like the big commitment. What would you say to the people who are just now, sitting behind their computer or sitting on their phone, and like in the next 15 minutes after this video is over, they can do something, right? What would you advise them to do in these 15 minutes?
I think everything begins with your mind, and it's all in your state of mind. So if you have kind of a glimpse of inspiration, then leverage that. That's also something that I'm doing all the time. When I have more willpower, then I'm trying to leverage that. So maybe that's the most useful thing I can say. Actually, this set a goal of something that would, if you think that if you're not, convinced that this is actually the agenda, then, set a goal and decide on, I will read for this many hours to like make a decision. If this actually is the strategy that we should deploy right now, find out yourself. I can direct you to the PauseAI website, but, that would be biased. So, just do research for X amount of hours or something like that. If you're already convinced, then yeah, you can look at the PauseAI website and there you can find more things. One thing I would say though, whatever you do, find people that you can work together with. It's much, much easier to, to keep working if you're working with someone. It's much easier. So, kind of set a goal with, just find, pick your favorites and, suggest a meeting time and, set a few goals and then, set up an accountability group. I do think that, cashing out on small wins continuously and finding people that you vibe really well with, that is absolutely winning recipe. So there, there we have the different audiences. If you're not convinced yet, set a goal on reading more about this. And, if you're already convinced, find your partner, set a goal and, read. Yeah.
And how do people find a partner in this?
Yeah. So I think most tasks don't require specialist knowledge. So most of the useful work you could do just requires you to actually sit down and do the thing. Sending an email, talking to your friends, like calling your politician, whatever. Most of these things don't require you to have a PhD in anything or even a bachelor. You can just try and, see if you can do it, and probably you can. So, finding a partner, that means that you could find, almost anyone so I think the optimization parameter here is finding someone that you can work well with. So vibing well or working well together with. So, pick your favorites. And
so, like,
if your
as a location,
person,
do you think just going to the PauseAI Discord is the way forward? Do you think people should try a different approach?
Oh yeah. The Discord is great for this. So you should just, reach out to people in DMs. I think that this is totally undervalued, underutilized. You can reach out to people in, big group chats, but since there is what is the bias when oh shit. Bystander effect. There is a bystander effect. Yes. So in group chats, there's bystander effect. If you DM people, people answer. So, just DM people, people want to know about impact opportunities. If they are also value aligned with you, then they want to be messaged and they want you to take the initiative to go and do something. You are carrying a heavier burden by asking someone to work with you. So this is a value proposition to them, actually. This is the way I think you should see it.
I think this is like a good moment for celebration, right? Because this week you've managed to attract so much attention and so much positivity, and you've managed to inspire so many people with you going to San Francisco and being there, having tabling sessions and being present in the digital sphere, right? That deserves some celebration.
Yeah.
So I want to say to you, like, thank you so much for what you're doing, Chris. You're a big inspiration to me, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people within PauseAI and other people who are considering taking action to save the world, who feel inspired by you as well. So thank you so much for doing this.
I'm glad to hear, and I'm very glad to hear.
All right, man. Keep up the good work. I hope to see you again soon. Cheers, Chris.
Likewise. Cheers, you.